So I'm gonna rant about another topic now. It's gonna be uh, Ascension. So I got interested in this topic a couple of years ago when I had my awakening. Right, I started to learn about see all these esoteric videos in the golden age of YouTube, which ended in about 2017. I think is when it really we're in now in at least the bronze age of YouTube now. So back then I was watching a lot of videos about, you know, 4D, 5D, light beings, light bodies, all this stuff, right? And, I know there's a lot of disinformation. This is a massive disinformation topic, is the light beings, and we're gonna, there's if you go down the path of watching a lot of these videos and reading a lot of this stuff, then there's just a bazillion trillion different ways they describe what's going to happen. Like there's going to be a solar flash, there's going to be you know, a rapture, all of these concepts, and they're all different. Like one day we're going to wake up and it's going to be like we're living in a different planet. There's every possible scenario I've heard that how this is going to go down. But see, I do buy the concept that the Earth's frequency is changing, the Schumann resonance and all that stuff. You know, I do think that there's something going on there, um, but I don't know how it's all going to go down. I can say that the Mayan calendar stuff, the 2012 prophecies, I see how that plays in. Um, I see what's going on with the poles moving, um, the pole shifts, potentials, and the earthquakes and the storms and everything. Um, I mean, a lot of this stuff, all the ancient cultures have prophecies about these types of things. I mean, you can go right down the list. They all have prophecies. The religions have prophecies. The raptures, um, all of those things. They make mention of these great flat, energetic eruptions that change everything. Right? There's something that happens there, and I think we're scheduled for something to happen here. And I do think that there's something going on. It's just like I don't know what it is, how it's going to go down, but I think we can all agree that we're on the precipice of an enormous societal change here, and I think I can feel the energy changing. Um, I've studied interdimensional light beings and these crafts that are biological crafts and biological beings going through portals and all this stuff, all this vibrational torus field based vortex math. There's so many amazing things that you can learn now on with the power of the internet, uh, where you can do research and you can go to these websites and you can find information about almost anything, things that would never be taught in any university, but have incredible, profound uh, wisdom, knowledge, truths. It's so fascinating. And I came across some videos the other day on vortex math, which I had never actually watched a video on vortex math. I'm familiar with the concept of vortex. I've been studying a lot of these things, but I didn't have the mathematics behind it. And I saw for the first time how the Tesla 369 thing, what that means in a very rudimentary, basic way. I have got a little bit of information about that from some of these videos, and I'm definitely very early in understanding it all. But I get, one of it kind of clicked for me when I started to understand about how one and two, what was it? One and two, 4 and 5, 7 and 8, and how 3, 6, and 9 are like the number. I can see the mathematics starting to formulate in my mind to understand why the 3, 6, and the 9 are, something about them being like the absence of matter, not matter. That very fascinating. I'm butchering it, but if you have not learned about vortex math, there's a channel called Know How, No Dash How I think it is, that has several videos about it, and they have some really good stuff. I highly recommend that channel. There's not a whole lot of vortex math videos online, as much as I thought. At least not initially, it didn't seem like it was very plentiful. But I think this is a topic that we really need as a society to look deeper into. There's obviously something big there to discover, or probably has been discovered, by some, by the few, um, and you know who you are, you know. Um, so it's cool stuff, that when let's get back on topic of ascension here. Pyramids. Did pyramids have something to do with raising the frequency of the planet? What are these ancient sites and the ley lines moving? And if you have not checked out the incredible monolithic ruins of the planet and how those align and how they resonate, and the stories of people walking. I was listening to some stories from Coast to Coast AM of people that have figured out how to activate the Peruvian ruins and create portals in them and go to other universes. And it comes down to singing to them, and they you fall through a portal on a rock, and just amazing concepts that whether or not you believe these type of things could happen, it's the more that you kind of you start to read and learn and seek. You just kind of get, more than any individual factoid or fact, just kind of learning more and more that things work with sound. Just that story by itself. I'm hearing a lot of information that's similar, talking about how some of these ancient sites can be activated with the frequency of sound. And so I've noticed that there's some incredible videos also regarding resonance experiments that show how frequencies create these. When there's a plate that you can buy, and basically a frequency resonating device that you can pour sand over and watch as you change the pitch of the frequency. You can see these more and more complex geometric patterns start to come out of it. It's fascinating stuff. I just love watching those videos of the resonance experiments. If you haven't checked that out, it really, just watching one of those videos gives you such a different understanding of the way things work. And so I was thinking, well, if you had enough resonance in an area, those pieces of sand, you could resonate something to be built, right? If you can do it on a small scale, there's no reason you couldn't do it on a big scale. Now, I was thinking, would it be so loud and that it would blow everybody's eardrums out or something? But there's got to be a way to do what they're doing in the small little, this little tiny, 9x9 or whatever it is thing. Why couldn't they use a bigger frequency generator and build a building or structure with it and have it instantly come together? Is that how the pyramids were built? Did they create some powerful frequency that manifested them? Some people think that they did. I don't have any proof of that. But there's there's a good amount of information that kind of leads you in that direction. Then you look at the composition and the precision of the pyramids, and was there some sort of higher order there that made that happen? Or did they just quarry all these rocks and schlep them, hundreds of miles and cut them with, ancient pieces of stone and, all that stuff that we were taught. I remember we're hearing all these stories that were in my textbooks as a kid of how these things were built. And if I had any clue back then how fascinating this stuff was, if it was explained to me through the lens that I have, obviously a lot of this information didn't exist then, but if I had any of that, I remember being a child and learning about the Indians of the Mesoamerican cultures of South Central America and Mexico and places like this. It just didn't have the same excitement that it does today to me. I don't think I understood it. I don't think it was explained in the way that it was. It was very drab, and they never forget to mention that they sacrificed. They did sacrifices, human sacrifices. And I have my vision of how that kind of went to some degree. I see it as I'm assuming, and I'm kind of getting this vibe that they had these sacrifices, right? These Mesoamerican cultures, but I feel like they more or less it would make sense to me if they fell into that, like they got further and further away from the original truths, or the original knowledge, the original spirit, whatever you want to call it, and so they kind of fell into that way of being, of doing those things, right? And so I think that civilizations do rise and fall, and there is a greater cycle that creates a change in consciousness at different periods of time. It's like a wave pattern of consciousness, right? And you've got times when consciousness falls and times when consciousness rises, and it all goes in a cycle. And so are we at that point of the cycle right now where it is time to have another great leap forward? Okay, we know that there's been days that were very short periods of time on this planet where everything changes, whether it's the period roughly 12,500 years ago when the woolly mammoths and a lot of the large mammals died off, right? Something enormous happened. Now, what happened to the people? You start to look at the tales of giants, even in North America, and the tales of throwing the Book of Enoch and some of these very esoteric books, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and you start to get this vision of this cycle of change occurring, and just the Adam and Eve story from the declassified documents of our favorite three-letter organization, who glows in the dark. So things like this. I mean, it's a very fascinating topic when you really start to peel it apart and study it and look at it from all these different perspectives of, is there a frequency change? And, the whole universe works on frequency. Then can there be times when there's a massive shift in that frequency for the higher or lower shift? And does it occur on some sort of a wave pattern? I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with this. So the ascension to me means that the frequency will change, or the frequency is going to change, or is changing, has changed, and that it will cause us and the living beings to change with it. That's the basic, most scientific concept I can give you right now, is that it's just the actual, the Earth's rhythm is going to change due to maybe perhaps exterior factors, right? So what if the Schumann resonance was permanently changed? How would that impact the planet? What would happen? It would probably do something just like how a different pattern forms on the resonance plate. I keep forgetting the name of it. That plate is called, but it's a. I'll try to remember it. So it's just the way that experiment takes place, and you see the frequency goes up, and the whole entire thing instantaneously just changes the way that the phase of it, the look of it, one pattern has 8 circles, then it has 4 circles, and then the circles move around, and it's so precise that if that works that way, that means that everything works that way on some higher level, right? So the planets aren't just spinning with gravity. There's this electric universe, and that's another concept, this electric universe, right? It's an electric universe. So that means that a black hole is emitting a frequency that is somehow controlling the order of the things that connect to it, and everything, it just kind of keeps going that way, to endlessly small and endlessly large, right? So the pine cone looks like the galaxy, and I like to use that one. The pine cone looks like the pineal gland, which is the connection between the spirit world and the physical world. There's all these, these very interesting concepts when you start to get into this stuff. The third eye, the pineal gland, the crown chakra, all these different names we've got for this resonating crystal in your mind that connects you to source energy, right? You probably heard all these videos about, raising the vibration and all this stuff, and they're talking about, raising your positive vibes, and it's going to just attract things, you're going to attract things to you, and laws of attraction. um, Fascinating stuff, fascinating topics. Love to rap about that. So Ascension, I can see from a very scientific, non-spiritual view, and I am a spiritual person, but just from a scientific perspective, if you can resonate frequency and you can spontaneously change the design of the pattern that forms from that frequency, then why wouldn't changing the frequency of the earth to a permanently high frequency have some sort of realignment? Why wouldn't it? A lot of these questions you come to and you just say, how could it not be that way? Like, if there's water on Mars, how can there not be life? If there's water on the moon, how can there not be microbes or some microscopic signatures of life in the water? How does it not get there? It's almost harder to disprove it than it is to prove it sometimes. And that's kind of where I'm going with this, is that if it works that way in a small scale, it works that way in a large scale. As below, so above, and so on and so forth. It's all one big giant pattern, all the way from the largest object to the smallest photon, right? It is a photon, like another universe, and it just keeps going on and on like that, right? In each direction infinitely. Is it that big? I don't know. I don't know if it's that big. I don't know if our cosmic, if the galaxy is infinite to the degree that we're talking about, and everything just goes on and on forever like that in every direction. But it could be. It's entirely possible. I have no way to disprove it. So that's my wrap on Ascension. I do believe that you should try to always raise your vibration, be the most positive, strong, happy, balanced person that you can be. Meditate, get crystals in your house, do high vibrational foods. All that stuff is great. There's nothing wrong with. I think all that's great things. All those are great things, and I can tell you it's changed me to recognize the beauty of life again through these messages, that some of these messages that I don't know if I'm really listening to Archangel Michael. But there's some good information if you just listen to it from a just completely non-judgmental perspective. Some of these videos that claim to be channeling these beings on a regular basis, right? You don't have to believe or disbelieve, but if you listen to the messages on a lot of those channeled messages, they're pretty good messages in a lot of ways. They may be esoteric in nature and and not comply with dogmatic practices and belief systems, but a lot of peaceful, even the ones like that say we're the Pleiadians, we're the Arcturians. I don't know if it is, okay, but that person has a pretty good vibration a lot of times. A lot of those videos are pretty high vibe. I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole entire internet here, but a couple of the channels I've come across, like Higher Self, and some of those channels that have those kind of videos. I can't prove if that's happening. Now, I can say that I do think it's possible to telepathically connect to other beings. I do think I have had that experience at various times. So I think it's possible. I think channeling is real. I've read the entire Law of One series. It's a great series. It's channeled information. There's a lot of stuff that claims to be channeled information. Abraham Hicks is one I like. There's some good stuff that they claim is channeled information. Cryon, that guy Cryon on the internet, he puts out there's a lot of videos of Cryon, who claims to be a Pleiadian, and one of the first ones I liked was Barbara Marciniak, who you can't find a lot of her videos. You actually have to buy her CDs. It's not online, but she's very fascinating to listen to. And again, I don't sit there and adopt everything. I've heard a lot of conflicting information, right? So you'll listen to one dude and they're like, the Anunnaki live in the space underground, and yada yada yada. And like, and it's just like everybody's got this uh, different, completely different perspective that they don't always jive, but they're talking about a lot of the same things. I've noticed, like, there's all this talk about, like I was looking today, some dude was like, Putin is fighting the Anunnaki. Um, so there's crazy. The world's a crazy place. We got to keep an open mind and discover the higher vibration. Okay, raise your vibration, and the secrets of the vortex math and 369 and the chakras, and just keep on searching for the higher wisdom. I'm going to keep on searching for it. If I hope somebody in the world finds this video entertaining. I'm just like you. I'm a truth seeker. I'm on the path, and it makes me feel really good to share some of these concepts with everybody, and that's why I make the videos. So thank you, and I'll see you again soon.